If you've ever looked closely at a school of guppy fish as they swim around their aquarium, you may have noticed that every now and then one of them will flash its tail really quickly. And although it might look pretty, if you stop to think about it, it's actually kind of weird. I mean, why would a fish suddenly flash its tail, and what does it even mean? Well, as it turns out, the way these little fish wiggle their tails is actually a complex language with plenty of words in their vocabulary. And by looking closely at some newly published research, we can start to understand what these fishy thesauruses are saying. In the animal world, communication is everything. It's how animals get their needs met and survive. So it shouldn't be surprising that fish have evolved lots of ways to communicate with each other. One example is this flashing behavior called a caudal display, where fish suddenly flash their brightly colored tails to communicate something important. But exactly what that something is often not well understood. Take the guppy, for example. As flashy as they are, we still don't know exactly what all those tail flashes mean. To help figure it out, researchers at the University of Queensland in Australia set up a bunch of aquariums with groups of guppies and filmed them using high-speed cameras. They wanted to see how the fish's tail movements varied depending on whether or not other fish were around. They also tested what effect different social cues had on the fish's behavior, like whether the fish could see another fish's tail or face or none of the above. And after poring over hours and hours of footage, they identified 5 different tail movements that the fish used when they were alone versus when they were in a group. When the fish were alone, they did a lot of exploring and searching, which was indicated by the direction of their head and their body axis relative to their tail. You can see an example here where the fish head is pointing in one direction while its body is oriented another way. This individual was probably using this posture to signal to its own self where it should go next. But things got more complicated when other guppies entered the scene. In groups, individuals still swam around a lot, but they spent more time doing what the researchers called tight turns, U-turns, and side-to-side movements. These movements seemed to be a way for the fish to show off their fancy tails to the other fish in the group. And sure enough, when the researchers blocked the fish's view of their own tail or the other fish's tail, the flashy displays happened much less often. But the presence of other fish wasn't the only thing that triggered these displays. If the guppies could only see the other fish's faces, not their tails, the displays happened a lot too. This suggests that seeing another fish's tail isn't the only message a fish needs to receive to break into a flashy display. Seeing another fish's face could also play a role. It may be that a certain posture or movement is a universal signal in fish speak, kind of like how flashing your teeth is a universal sign of aggression among primates. Or maybe it's just more like human sign language, where a bunch of different postures and movements all combine together to form a full-fledged language. Either way, the researchers think their study shows that communication is happening below the surface, so to speak, in the seemingly simple act of flashing their tails. Guppies and their aquarium mates may seem like they're just mindlessly cruising around their tank, but they're actually engaging in a rich and complex language that has evolved over millions of years. So if you keep fish as pets, remember that there has a lot more going on below the surface than meets the eye or maybe the fin. Thanks for watching.